The U.S. House Oversight Committee just dropped more than 20,000 documents from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. And honestly, the mess of it all might be the biggest revelation. This wasn't some polished archive drop. These files came as chaotic folders with random labels, chopped up email threads, screenshots with absolutely no context, and heavily redacted spreadsheets. One folder was called Natives, and it literally contained a video of a dog playing with a Trump and Hillary Clinton plush toy. Courier Newsroom had to build a searchable database because the original dump just looked like somebody emptied a junk drawer onto the internet. But once you dig past the chaos, the bigger story becomes impossible to ignore. Epstein's network reached much further into elite circles than most people ever imagined. And it's staying intact years after his 2008 conviction. And before we go deeper, quick pause. If you're finding this breakdown helpful so far, go ahead and subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next. We go through these releases with plain language and actual evidence and no conspiracy fluff. All right, back at it. One of the biggest surprises in this new batch of files is a name most people outside of academia might not know well, Noam Chomsky. Chomsky is a world-famous linguist. Literally, the man whose theories reshaped the whole field. And he's also known for decades of political writing criticizing U.S. foreign policy, corporate power, and government corruption. To a lot of people on the left, he represents moral clarity and resistance to abuse of power. So seeing emails between Chomsky and Jeffrey Epstein from 2015 to 2017 was jarring. They talked about politics, linguistics, and global events. Epstein even offered Chomsky access to his apartments in New York and New Mexico. When asked why he stayed in contact with a convicted sex offender, Chomsky said Epstein had served his time, which struck many as tone deaf, like read the room, especially since Epstein continued sexually exploiting girls long after that conviction. There's no evidence Chomsky did anything criminal, but the emails raise real questions about judgment and how easily proximity to wealth can pull people in. And Chomsky wasn't the only surprising name. Deepak Chopra, the celebrity wellness and spirituality guru who built an empire on meditation, healing, and enlightenment, appears in Epstein's calendar over a dozen times between 2016 and 2019. One email shows Epstein sending Chopra a link about a lawsuit being dropped and Chopra replying, "Good." And another, Chopra asks Epstein about information about Maria Maples, Donald Trump's second wife, and promises confidentially. There's no accusations of wrongdoing, but it definitely cracks the image of the wellness world being morally above the fray. Then comes one of the most politically explosive names on the list, Kathleen Rumler. She served as the White House counsel to President Barack Obama, meaning she was the top lawyer in the White House during that time. According to the documents, she stayed in regular contact with Epstein even after leaving the Obama administration. The emails show a surprisingly personal relationship. In 2014, when Attorney General Eric Holder was preparing to step down, she discussed her potential interest in the job with Epstein. At one point, he encouraged her to talk to her boss, presumably referring to President Obama. She ultimately declined the possibility because she didn't want to give up her $11,000 per month Manhattan apartment, which was partially reimbursed by her law firm. But the most unsettling detail, a 2019 draft of Epstein's lists Rumler as the backup executor of his estate. That kind of role only goes to somebody you deeply trust. Their emails also showed they bonded over their mutual dislike of Donald Trump. Right after Michael Cohen pleaded guilty, Epstein wrote to her, "You see, I know how dirty Donald is." Just months before Epstein's arrest, his assistant told JP Morgan Chase executive Mary Erdos that Epstein wanted her to consider Rumler as a client, describing her as his very good friend. Today, she is the chief legal officer at Goldman Sachs, which continues to support her publicly. Her connection matters because it shows how something crucial. Epstein didn't mention social ties. He stayed close to people with power inside the government, even after his conviction. Next, we see tech billionaire Peter Thiel. co-founder of PayPal and one of Silicon Valley's biggest political influencers. Emails show that he and Epstein exchanged messages in 2014, with Thiel ending one email with, "That was fun. See you in 3 weeks." Epstein later invited him to his private Caribbean island, the same place tied to many of Epstein's alleged crimes. Thiel's team said he never went. I don't care. But the invitation alone shows Epstein still felt welcome among the tech elite. Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary and former Harvard president, also shows up a whole lot. Summers' emails with Epstein span 7 years, full of dinner plans, friendly exchanges, and private comments about the #MeToo movement, including one message where he wrote, "Do not repeat this," in all capitals, which definitely suggests he knew the conversation wasn't appropriate to share. Summers visited Epstein's home multiple times, and Harvard maintained ties to Epstein during his presidency. Then there's Steve Bannon, one of the most influential figures in Trump's political world. Documents show he had meetings scheduled with Epstein as late as April 2019, just 3 months before Epstein was arrested. Another email appears to show Epstein forwarding a message from Bannon asking whether Bill Clinton would like to join a gathering. Again, no proof of criminal involvement, but it shows Epstein was still networking at the highest levels of politics. Even outside of politics and business, Epstein connected with public figures like David Blaine, a magician known for his endurance stunts. They exchanged brief emails about dinner in 2016. Small detail, but it adds to the bigger pattern. Epstein mixed with people across every industry: entertainment, tech, government, academia. So what does this all really mean? Here's the most important thing. These documents do not show that these people committed any crimes. There's no evidence in the emails that we know of that any of them participated in Epstein's abuse. What the documents do show is something maybe even more disturbing: a pattern of people, smart, powerful, successful people, who continued choosing to stay close to Epstein even after his crimes were public. He operated as a connector, an advisor, and a gatekeeper to power. He offered access, information, and influence. And many people were willing to overlook his history to stay in his social circle. But the strangest part of this whole release might be one email from Epstein's brother, Mark, containing a cryptic line: "Ask him if Putin has photos of Trump blowing Bubba." Immediately, the internet exploded. Some thought Bubba might mean Bill Clinton, which was his childhood nickname. Mark Epstein's spokesperson denied that. Then there's a bizarre theory that went viral claiming Bubba was actually a horse owned by Ghislaine Maxwell. TikTok, X, Reddit, everyone was sharing fake screenshots and made up receipts. But the boring truth is this: Mark Epstein's spokesperson says Bubba is just a private person, not a public figure. Who fucking knows? And then there's no evidence that Maxwell ever owned a horse that went by that name, though she has talked about loving horses and bonding with Queen Elizabeth II over riding. The horse theory took off because at this point, the Epstein story has become a magnet for conspiracy theories. People expect the most dramatic possibility to be the real one. But the real story, the one that is in the documents, is already disturbing enough. Epstein didn't need secret codes or hidden horse names. He had access to the most powerful people, and the powerful people kept the door open for him. In the end, there was no horse named Bubba, allegedly, just a long list of people who should have known better and who made decisions they can't undo. If you want more breakdowns like this, clear, fact-based, and in plain language, please make sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications, hit that little bell. We're going to keep digging into these Epstein files, and we're going to break down what's real and dive through the internet chaos. Subscribe for more.